Good evening, 7th grade, and this is lesson 5-5 on using customary units of measurement. In tonight's lesson, we have two objectives. First, you will be able to identify appropriate customary units, and secondly, you will be able to convert customary units. So, something to recognize is before in chapter 3, we talked about the metric system, which is used in many other countries, or many different countries. But here in the United States, we still use the customary unit, the inch, the foot, the yards, the miles, and all those sort of things. So first, I want you to just take a look at this table. We have the measurements of length for how long something is, and these are the four we normally use. And you'll recognize these, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. And down below, we have the equivalents. This comes in for the second piece of tonight's lesson. For capacity, again, how much fills or how much fits into a bathtub or in a cup. All right, so here we're always talking about liquid. We have these choices, and there's quite a few: fluid, ounces, cup, pint, quart, or gallon. And again, we have the equivalents. And then here for weight, we have ounce, pound, or ton. And then again, we just have the equivalents down here, so how you can convert one from the other. So the first objective of tonight is choosing an appropriate unit of measure, meaning we need to say which one of these would best fit the example given. So A, weight of a hummingbird. Well, we know we're looking at weight, so I know I have to choose one of these three. Well, a hummingbird is a small bird. So I don't know if, well, obviously tons out. We know it's not going to weigh a ton. Well, pound, a bird could weigh a pound, but again, a hummingbird is a teeny tiny little bird. So here I would go with ounce, because a bird, or a hummingbird, is very small. Now again, if you went with pounds, it wouldn't be wrong, but ounces would be the most appropriate measure. And then B, we have length of a soccer field. Why don't you go ahead and fill this in now with what you think the correct length is. So either inches, feet, yards, or mile. All right, I'm going to assume that you have it done. A length of a soccer field, well, it's pretty long. If you want to think of a football field, that would work too. And a lot of times in football, they talk about how many yards they got. They got 1 yard or 2 yard, or it's 4 yards to a first down. So B, yards. For B, yards would be the most appropriate measure. But that's the first part of the lesson. The next part goes into dimensional analysis. And this is when we convert units, meaning we want to go from inches to feet, or from fluid ounces to a quart or a gallon. And in order to do that, we need to know the equivalent. So again, this bottom piece is very important in this part of the lesson. So use a conversion factor to convert 68 fluid ounces to cups. When you do these, you always want to start with what they give us. Well, we know we have 68 fluid ounces. All right, when we do these, we know how to multiply fractions. So that's what we want to do first. We're going to switch 68 into a fraction by putting it over 1. And notice how I'm putting in the label with it, because the next one, we actually are going to use that. Now, we need to find the equivalent to this, something that talks about fluid ounces to cups. Well, we know where its capacity, and here it is. 1 cup is the same as 8 fluid ounces. So that's an equivalent fraction. So what we want to do is we want to make it so the fluid ounces is on bottom. That way those cross out. All right, so we're going to have 1 cup on top and 8 fluid ounces at the bottom. Again, the reason that I'm putting it with 8 fluid ounces on the bottom is I want these two labels to cross out. So you want them to be across from each other like this, or diagonal if you want to think of it that way. So now my label is cups. So I multiply. 68 times 1 is 68. 1 times 8 is 8. So I get 68 eighths, which can be reduced to 8 4/8, which really simplifies to 8 1/8 cup. That's how we do that one. All right, next problem. Again, we're going to do the same idea. And I'm going to lift my table up here so you can see it a little better. There we go. The first one, we need to switch 14 ounces to pounds. Again, the first thing you do, write 14 ounces, and you make it over 1. Now, your next one, you want to find the equivalent that talks from ounces to pounds. So I take a look. Oh, here it is. 1 pound is the same as 16 ounces. So again, I need to look to see where the ounces belong. Ounces is on top, so ounces have to go on bottom here in order for them to cross out. That leaves me with just pounds left over. So then I simplify. 14 times 1 is 14. 1 times 16 is 16. I get 14 sixteenths, which can be simplified by 2, and I get 7/8 of a pound. There we go. What I'd like you to do now is do this last one here. 3 quarts is how many gallons? So I want you to go ahead and do what I just did. So go ahead and pause me now. All right, let's check this one then. Again, I start by writing 3 quarts over 1. And let's see. Here is an equivalent fraction I need to use, excuse me. 1 gallon is 4 quarts. So quarts need to go on bottom this time, so they cross out. And there we go. So now I simplify. 3 times 1, 1 times 4. And that can't be simplified, so my answer is 3/4 of a gallon. Now, here we can take it a step further. We have those word problems, which we always seem to get. Can't have a math problem without them, apparently. So here, Fred's Fruit Stand sells homemade lemonade in 6.5 pint bottles for $1.99. Jill's Fruit Stand sells homemade lemonade in 3.5 quart containers at the same price. At what stand do you get more lemonade for your money? So here, we're talking about 2 different fruit stands. We're talking about Jill's, where you can get 3.5 quart container for $1.99. Or Fred's, you can get a 6.5 pint bottle for $1.99. In order to compare them to see what the better price is, we need to make them the same. So we either have to switch them both to pints or switch them both to quarts. Me, I'd prefer to switch them to pints because it's easier to simplify. Now we keep talking about how we want them to be written as a fraction first. Here I have a mixed number of 3.5 quarts. Well, if I do it as an improper fraction, it's already a fraction. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So I have 7.5, and again, I'm putting quarts on top. So I switch 3.5 to a fraction, 7.5 quarts. Now again, I need to find the equivalent to it that talks about quarts and pints, and that is right here. 1 quart is the same as 2 pints. 1 quart goes on bottom, so those cross out, is the same as 2 pints. So now I multiply. 7 times 2 is 14, and then 2 times 1 is 2. And you get, at Jill's Fruit Stand, 7 pints for $1.99, while at Fred's you only get a 6.5 pint one. So Jill has a better deal. All right, that's your lesson for tonight. Tonight we talked about using an appropriate unit of measurement and also using conversion to simplify or to figure out what's a better deal. So have a good night and see you all tomorrow.